Hello, and welcome to Regen Reviews. Here, we take a look at projects and protocols working to regenerate the Earth. Today, we'll be taking a look at Earthcoin, usually denoted simply as $Earth. Let's get into it. The goal of Earthcoin is to mobilize capital and remove any financial barriers for projects who are working to address the climate and ecological crises here on Earth. They're targeting 5 different industries or areas of impact, those being clean energy, regenerative agriculture, clean transport, ecosystem conservation/regeneration, and climate tech. For this video, I've compiled all my notes based on the Earthcoin documentation and their official website. You can find the links in the description below if you want to take a look yourself. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of this project, I just want to read you a quote from their documentation that really struck a chord with me and I think is very impactful for why crypto is important and the key breakthrough that this technology has unlocked for humanity. Check this out. The fact that you could design your own monetary system on a permissionless, transparent, immutable, borderless ledger turned out to be the most unexpected bullet in the climate action armor. We can now ascribe value to what we think is important, decide what kind of collateral we want running our monetary systems, incentivize aligned economic activity, subsidize critical elements, coordinate globally without any intermediaries, and design socio-economic frameworks for your network states sovereignly. Awesome quote. This has implications beyond Earthcoin and even implications beyond the broader umbrella of regenerative finance. This is coming to some of the key aspects of crypto and blockchain technology and why it is so impactful for humanity. Let's get into the details of Earthcoin specifically now. Earthcoin is an unpegged cryptocurrency. It is backed by real-world assets directly addressing the climate and ecological crises. It will serve as a unit of account for the asset value of the projects, their potential yield, and the positive externalities generated by these solutions. So broadly speaking, Earthcoin will amass funding. It will fund projects addressing in those 5 areas I mentioned earlier in the video. And then it will tokenize those projects, hold NFTs in the treasury that says, this NFT represents a solar farm in India, this NFT represents a regenerative agriculture project in Malaysia, etc. And the Earthcoin will be a unpegged digital currency backed by these projects held in the treasury. The fundamentals of this project are related to what they call in the documentation intrinsic value, saying that every Earth token is supported by a diverse combination of climate assets from clean energy, regenerative agriculture, conservation, clean transport, etc. The dollar value of these climate assets lends itself to provide the intrinsic value of $Earth. So like I said in the previous segment, the Earthcoin itself is an unpegged digital currency and it is collateralized, backed by real-world projects that are being tokenized and represented in and held in the treasury of this project. The intrinsic value of the treasury is calculated. They don't exactly go into the details of how to calculate that, and there's some notes about creating novel underwriting mechanisms, but for now, they're just assuming that we'll know what the total dollar value is of all these projects. There are ways to estimate that currently. How does the market value a 5 megawatt solar farm? That is worth a certain amount of money, depending on who owns it. But there is also some details in the notes about perhaps this project could introduce new ways to value assets. For example, maybe the value of a regenerative farm isn't just in the amount of income they generate by selling their produce, because that farm is actually capturing CO2, increasing biodiversity, regenerating the soil health, etc., as opposed to maybe there's an equivalent traditional farm that has the same amount of income based on selling produce. However, they are running off lots of chemical fertilizers into the water supply, using pesticides and herbicides, genetically modified crops, and doing big monocrops instead of biodiversity. So the key part about intrinsic value here is that the Treasury has some value. It's a little unclear exactly how that's going to be determined. There will be a lot of different types of projects in the Treasury, but somehow we'll determine what that Treasury is worth, and then that will lead us to the next step where we can start creating new Earth tokens representative of this Treasury. The next step, once we know what the Treasury is worth, is to allow people to mint new Earth coins. First step of this process is to complete KYC. They say in the documentation that because we're interacting with real-world assets, that is why we need to complete KYC. And once you do that, you'll receive a special soul-bound NFT. It's a token that is non-transferable. And this will allow you to interact directly with the protocol and mint new Earth tokens. The mint price is determined by the intrinsic value of the Treasury. So let's say all the value of the Treasury divided by all of the Earth tokens currently in existence comes out to $5 per Earth token. Someone who has this special NFT can go to the protocol and bring their stable coins with them and mint new Earth tokens. However, the new Earth tokens, they don't mint them at the intrinsic value price. They actually mint them at a premium. So apparently they're starting this premium at a multiple of 2. So if the intrinsic value of the Treasury divided by all of the Earth coins in existence is equal to $5 per coin, and someone wants to create new Earth coins, they actually need to mint them at a price of $10 per Earth coin. And so let's say they just send $10 to the Earth coin protocol. That goes to the Treasury, and that user, holder of the NFT, interactor of the protocol, will receive 1 Earth coin token. The Treasury will receive the $10 in stablecoin, and the remaining, what happened to the rest of that value? This is what they're calling harvesting, where that other $5 worth of Earth coin that the user didn't receive gets distributed, harvested to the following parties according to this pie chart here. 40% to stakers, 30% to partnerships / rewards / IV, intrinsic value, 20% to LP, assuming that means liquidity providers or liquidity pool, 10% to the DAO. The interesting part about this tokenomic design is it will limit Earth coins' speculative run during the bull market. There are times where companies in the stock market or cryptocurrencies are trading way, way overvalued to how much they're actually worth. And you can argue about what something's worth, because sometimes people could be pricing in far into the future, etc. But this tokenomic interaction of the protocol, people able to mint at 2x the intrinsic value, I believe will keep Earthcoin from mooning too far above that value, because that's just a free arbitrage for anyone who has that NFT. They can mint Earthcoin at 2x the value and sell it whenever that price is above. If the price goes below 2x the intrinsic value in Uniswap or whatever the liquidity pool that they're using is, then I'll just buy Earthcoin from the pool instead of minting it from the protocol because it's cheaper. If it goes below the intrinsic value, they have mentioned in the documents that they are going to devise some plan or methodology to be able to liquidate some of their more liquid assets to balance that and back that up. Let's talk about governance. In that earlier graphic, we saw that 10% of the harvested Earthcoin will be going to the DAO. What's the DAO? Basically, this project has a roadmap to decentralize. This is great core values of any crypto project. It will start very centralized. Right now, the plan is to just have all the governance be handled by the core team for now. But they eventually want to distribute a governance token, Solarpunk, denoted as $SLRPNK. And they'll launch this governance token, and that will be the token used to govern the DAO. It'll be distributed to those consistently adding value to building Earthcoin, including the team, community, influencers, investors, partners, projects, and merchants. Has not been launched yet, but it's good to know that they will start centralized and move towards a more decentralized DAO-based governance. This is what we've seen with Gitcoin and many other crypto projects. Now that you know all the details of this project, let's get into some of the concerns I had while researching this project. First of all, I can't really tell if this project has launched already. I was unable to interact with their app because it insisted that I connect to the Mumbai testnet. So I'm assuming it hasn't launched on any mainnet or any layer 2 that I'm aware of. And I would doubt that they would have their full launch on the Mumbai testnet. Also, I couldn't find Earthcoin on CoinGecko or Uniswap. And there's no details anywhere that I found saying we're planning to launch at this point in time. Let me know if I'm wrong. This was a little confusing to me because if you go on their website, on their projects page, you can see they have some projects lined up that either have already been funded, are looking to be funded, or will be funded in the future. I don't know the status of those projects, but they seem to have projects going or ready to go for if Earthcoin launches soon or is ready to launch. Continuing off of this last point, I would like to see far more disclosure and transparency around the specifics and tokenomics of this Earthcoin. It seems like this whole project is about combining capital, attracting capital into the Earthcoin ecosystem, amassing it into the treasury, and then funding awesome regenerative agriculture, clean transportation, and other awesome projects that we need to fund. It is imperative that this project be very transparent with the initial supply of Earthcoin, who is receiving the initial supply of Earthcoin, which networks it's using, and the contract addresses that it's using, the wallets of the team and anyone who's getting the initial supply or having some sort of lock up of tokens, and the vesting schedule, if there's any vesting schedule of investors or people who are receiving the initial supply. We need to have all this stuff. Part of building out in the open and building on open, transparent ledgers is that we can double check what you're doing and not just have to trust you when you say something. So My advice to this team, please be very transparent with every detail of the tokenomics of this project and have a page for people like me doing research where you can say, here's our smart contract address, here's our wallet addresses, here's our tokenomics plans or whatever. And then we can do our due diligence and verify, those wallets for the team are receiving the amount of tokens that they say they're receiving. This vesting schedule is in the code just like they say it's in the code, and the code functions the way they're saying it functions, etc. They mentioned in the documentation that they're modeling their tokenomics initial supply off of the Temple DAO, and I looked at Temple DAO's documentation and I couldn't find anything there either. So this is one part of the documentation that needs more clarity. My last concern for this project has to do with corporate structures. When dealing with real-world assets, it's my assumption that we need some sort of corporate structure to hold or possess or own those real-world assets. They're talking about tokenizing real-world assets and holding those in the treasury. And if they're using any corporate structures as a part of this process, they should be very transparent with what those are, who owns them, who controls them, so that people in the ecosystem can monitor and verify that information. Well, that concludes all the information of Earthcoin based on my research as well as some of my concerns that came up in their documentation. Overall, I like the idea. I think we need to facilitate more capital formation and investment into climate projects and regenerative agriculture projects and the kind of projects that they're looking to invest into. However, I'm not really seeing much. I think that this project's pretty early on in its development. A lot of their posts on Twitter are more about memes and kind of solar punk culture. And I would personally like to see, pictures of the solar farm in India that's on their projects page and be able to see them installing or see the whole thing has already been installed. I want to see real world impact, not just solar punk mid-journey graphics with some inspiring quotes. Overall, great idea. This project's early on in its life cycle. I don't even know if it's launched yet, but they were #1 in the Gitcoin Alpha climate round. So they seem to have some support amongst the community. And I hope this research video has been helpful for you to learn a little bit more about this project. Thank you.